Keynote address by none other than Ravi S. Ramakrishnan, founder, Shared Services Forum India, founder and executive chairman, Quintes Global, founder and chairman, R Value Group. Ravi is a seasoned global business and people leader with 40 years of business, finance, and business services experience. A former business leader at American Express, he was an integral part of the global leadership team to set up its pioneering offshore operations in India in the mid 1990s. He has held leadership positions in Unilever, Murugappa Group, and Aisha Group with CXO level responsibilities. Ravi has led large scale process transitions and transformations and serviced 30 plus countries across the US, UK, Europe, Japan, and India. He has a successful track record of transforming business services, strategy to execution, hands on experience of global COE operations, global process ownership, and so on. In 2011, he founded Shared Services Forum, an interactive industry platform for shared services and ITES space. Recognized as a visionary CEO and thought leader in business services, he is also an executive coach and mentor for business leaders. Ravi is a chartered cost accountant and company secretary and trained at Carnegie Mellon University, USA for implementing ESCM. May I request Mr. Ravi S. Ramakrishnan to deliver the keynote address, Moving Beyond Future Ready Business Service Centers. Ravi, please.
Welcome to Hyderabad and welcome to each one of you. I think it's such a pleasure to see so many of you back again after 2 years of, as I call it, the vanvas of personal interactions in a way. But I think it's so pleasing to see each one of you together here. And it was so nostalgic for Rakesh to put up those 10 years of journey of Shared Services Forum. Each one of you here have contributed to it. It is not a singular attempt of any one of us. It cannot be, because as the name goes, it is for the practitioners, by the practitioners. Right? So, my thought today is to share some aspects of some of my learnings over, I would say I'll combine, I think while I've spent 25 years of business process, technology, transformation kind of experience, but I definitely value the kind of manufacturing experience I've had right at the beginning as I started, right from Unilever. And, it is so interesting to see. My first career, I was a management trainee in Hindustan Lever way back. And in the first conclave, interestingly, we had two organizations coming together. One for having pioneering the offshore shared services to India, the beginning of this industry, okay, which is American Express. And the second one is Hindustan Unilever. At that time, the Hindustan Lever became Hindustan Unilever. D. Sundaram was very much with us on that occasion. And that's because they were the pioneering organization to initiate India shared services or India business services at that time. And I don't know how many of you know, Hindustan Unilever, at that time was Hindustan Lever, was actually, they started their shared services for India. And then Unilever came to India. Unlike many of the global corporates where I would say American Express global corporate actually had mandated, and then we started, of course, it was a big search, etc., out of 13 countries in Japan, Asia, Pacific. India was selected, Delhi was selected, and so on. But I think Hindustan Lever actually started the journey, in 2002, 2003, under the leadership of D. Sundaram. And so I really feel that, one can really see the spectrum. Even today, I would say the manufacturing industry is a trendsetter for our technology and business services arena. We will talk more about it as we go forward. So in today's context, I think the team is brilliantly positioned. Rise for the next gen business service centers, moving beyond collaboration and capability to commitments and competitive edge. So I would really kind of share, some of the nuggets in the context of moving beyond when we talk about future of shared services, future of business services. And I will also talk about how the shared services itself kind of evolved as we talk through some of the elements in this conversation. It's actually, I would say, in today's conversation, we would say moving beyond best practices to next practices. Because I think I've at least seen this, and I'm sure there was some conversation which we had in the context of business services only, I think about 4 years back, when someone of us said, I think best is good enough, but what about next services? Next practices. And that's how we have been, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been ahead of the curve, thanks to some of the inputs which I've gathered from the various people. And I think India has been in the front runner to look at some of these areas. So in today's conversation, I will talk about what are the areas which are moving beyond best practices to next practices for a future-ready business services. We're not talking about how well are we doing today. I'm sure many of us are doing well, and as Rakesh also said, and I think the last 2 years clearly demonstrated that we all have been able to manage our shared services remotely, despite all the challenges which we have had, whether it is Airtel on one side or is it ABB on the other side or whoever it is. We really talk about multiple organizations which have actually done it. But in my conversation today, I'll touch upon some of the nuggets, I'm not getting into too much of detail because there are 1.5 days of interactions which are going to happen. So when I look at moving beyond, best practices to next practices, I think I just want to give a context very quickly, because in 2018, I'm talking about 4 years back, Shared Services Forum actually brought out kind of a framework. I'm talking about 4 years back, and I'm so proud to recall that today, which was captioned as future ready or future shock. I'm sure, I would request any one of you to go back in those process edge kind of an article which would have published in terms of what has happened, how it is. I'm not going to take you through those. All I wanted to kind of share with you first, that we have had the opportunity to look at 4 years back, what kind of things we can do. And in today's context, we are actually looking even more than that, because so much has changed. Pandemic has completely disrupted the globe. as we see it. Having said that, should we, a quick point of view on the numbers, where are we today as India, or a global offshoring, or global technology? I think a quick look. The first point is we have had tremendous growth. When I say we, not only India, but across the globe, tremendous growth despite pandemic. Actually, I would say all of us know that. What is this so simple? It's because of pandemic, right? But I still wanted to kind of bring that context to say that, because sometimes people feel so much has been disturbed. Really not. It's actually grown faster in the last 2 years. Much, much higher than what anyone could visualize. India today, I'm talking of this as published, excluding hardware sales, because I think we are in the service industry, is 210 billion, of which business process services is about 44 billion, which includes exports and domestic, And we have grown at a rate of 13 to 14%. IT services have grown at about 17%. Our business process management has grown at 13 to 14%. So, which is very good compared to the kind of growth other industries have achieved in the last 2 years. Global sourcing market, which is offshoring, But let me also recall to you, when I come to the next one, you will see the power of what the global world means, right? The global sourcing, which has got both outsourcing and shared services put together, that's about 25% of this 240 billion, close to about 60 billion. It has grown from 50 billion to 60 billion in the last 2 years. Very, very powerfully, almost like 11 to 12% growth, both in terms of headcount as well as in terms of revenue. That's from an offshoring market. But you see the 240 billion in the context of total technology spend. It's 1.7 trillion. I think it's a typo. 1.7 trillion is the global technology spend. It's amazing. And this has grown in the last 3 years, almost from 900 to 1 trillion, 900 billion to 1 trillion to 1.7 trillion. Technology, and this is across the globe. So this is global technology spend. And that's growing. In the last 2 years, it grew at 9%. We expect it to grow by 6.75 to 7% in the next year or two, because we're not expecting the same rate of growth to happen. But this is just to give you a context that if we really look at our next-gen future readiness, not just with business services in mind, but we look at larger, what happens? The world will change for us. So let's talk about what are the moving beyond. So I'm really going to give some context of best practices to next practices on moving beyond. First one, beyond business services to technology and enterprises services. I think this is something which is, whenever I've spoken to people, they used to say, IT services is separate, business services is separate. It's no longer going to be like that. In my mind, as we see the leading organizations, the leaping organizations would look at technology and enterprise services as the umbrella and not just the business services as one umbrella. Actually, there are companies which have merged GPS and IT under one umbrella. And I wanted to give that context again, how manufacturing and service industries have grown. Well, BFSI had a lot of leap on that. Procter & Gamble, which is one of the, in my mind, the best manufacturing organizations which has demonstrated GBS, has merged GBS and IT as one organization. And this was done not today, done much before, even the COVID. And that's the kind of a practice which has already happened. Now people are looking at it and say, that's how the transformation will happen. What next for us, Digital transformation, I think this has been a solid conversation for us several times, all the time. But obviously, I think for all of us who have walked into it, I still feel sometimes we say digital would mean about technology, but it's not. Actually, I would have liked to say not just about technology, but actually consciously took away that word just there, because I said it is important to emphasize it is not about technology. It has actually gone much beyond. The term transformation is no longer going to be used in the world of global services, global technology and enterprise services. What would that be? It is transformation to metamorphosis. So just a question, I'm sure metamorphosis is not an unknown term for you. Can anyone take, I don't know, any mics are there? Yeah? Mics are there? Right? So anyone wants to take a guess at what would you think is metamorphosis? Of course, I can walk down also, nothing as a problem, because anyone wants to take a shot at what is metamorphosis? Or what would you like to describe as metamorphosis? Silence. Yes, please. Go ahead.
It could be growth in stages, more derived from.
Announce yourself and then share.
Yeah. Hi, this is Jitendra from Bulgaria. The word metamorphosis, I think, comes from zoology, if I'm not wrong, kind of means that growth in stages.
Yes. Very well. So, anyone wants to expand on it? Absolutely. Growth in stages. Very well put.
Hi, this is Shudipto from Bulgaria again. So the example of a zoology metamorphosis is that of a larva into the butterfly. So it's drastic change as well. Yeah.
Where, we talk about metamorphosis. I think there's one person. Give me that.
So, hi, I'm Deepak from Rambol. So moving beyond transformation to metamorphosis means the basic difference between a transformation and metamorphosis to me is basically moving to a stage where you can't recognize where you started. It so drastically changed.
That's right. That's the way it is. The butterfly is. Nobody can believe that the caterpillar would have been the butterfly. So, to give you a scientific connect to this, to talk about growth stages, it is actually series of transformations. We talked about stages. It is series of transformations, not one transformation. And that one transformation is what we all have. I think 99% of the transformation projects we do is one-sided. Okay, I will do this, etc. But digital transformation is not like that. It is multi-sides, the minimum 3 sides of it, which has been articulated. Actually the term was used for economic metamorphosis as well. When the globalization went back to look at localization, that was also a context in economics. But to come back, 3 types or 3 series of transformation: business process transformation, customer experience transformation, and business model transformation. All the 3 simultaneously happening when the metamorphosis happens. So digital transformation is not just about technology or not about technology. It has to consider the business process, the customer, and the company business itself. And that's one of the reasons we're talking in this team today, rising beyond collaboration and capabilities to commitments and competitive edge. How do we look at competitive edge? How do we look at commitments? Largely today, our commitments are process and service driven. But can we commit to deliver a larger conversation of profitability? That's what I think this 1.5 days we will deliberate. So digital transformation is not just about this, it's a metamorphosis. And I think if we are able to recognize that, then we will keep all the right things in the right place. Beyond baselining to benchmarking, I think baselining has been something which has kind of started, when we started American Express, there was not even a baseline. And even today, many companies don't have a baseline, as we know. Then we say, let's do a 3 months, baseline it, share with the company and customers, etc., etc. But the context is not just baselining, it is about benchmarking. Now, that's when this context, what Rakesh was talking about, for one of the leading organizations we were inquiring. So how much of the Indian organization would you poll? And you know the answer. So we said, no, there is a necessity for Indian global centers or India shared service centers. And I want to make sure India shared service centers have done something phenomenal. And I was talking in a flight with a couple of my colleagues. There are two types of requirements in the world of business. One is complexity, another one is criticality. Complexity is very, very sorry. Vijay, just go back, please. Complexity is, for India, for instance, it is very different. So, I know there are people from Olam and Airtel and so on. Africa, very different complexity. We have to be conscious. Russia, very different, irrespective of the current Ukraine situation. I think there has been so much which has happened in the complexity, but criticality is global. I think it's important for us to see the larger context, and therefore, the focus has to be dual. Can I look at my own core business domain, whether it is pharma, whether it is technology, whether it is, Ajay sitting here, CAT-CAM kind of advanced high-value chain services, or telecom, which we talk about Airtel. I think it's all over, in the plantations, the kind of things which Olam does. I think there is a lot of things which are happening in that area, and people try and understand that. That's one part of it. But equally important is to look at the technology and enterprise services domain. What we started talking, so I'm no longer using the word business services domain. I think it's tech and enterprise services. Do we benchmark? Do we have the open market comparison with what's happening outside? Do we take a call? Again, I'm just saying, this is again manufacturing taught us. Shop-made versus bought out was the biggest learning I had when I was in automobile company called Aisha. So how much will I make in-house and how many components will I get from outside? Similarly, would I look at my global business services by the number of people under my umbrella, or would I look at do I look at a combination of outsourcing and shared services? It's a combination. It is no longer that is one. Make versus buy is very critical even in today's conversation, because if we don't benchmark with what is available outside, we will not know whether we are doing the right thing or not. So beyond baselining to benchmarking, not just with core business, but also with other business services, enterprise services kind of context. I'm a very passionate person on leadership, and I truly believe it's very important. I've kind of leveraged all the skills which I developed in multiple years of experience across Hindustan Lever to Aisha to American Express. Inside out leadership is absolutely important. But today, we will have to focus not just on inside out, but also outside in entrepreneurship. Because innovation cannot come out of just ideation. innovation has to come from something which is a demand which is available from outside. There's a necessity to see that larger context. So when we look at the entrepreneurship, I would say that, what all can be done, and we'll talk more about it as we progress, but it's important for us to see, is there a new idea which can make a significant difference? I've had several such examples which we have seen, whether it is in BFSI or whether it is in the area of even pharma, for instance. So much has happened in the world. One good example I would give in the pharma and the manufacturing space. Pharma was one of the first industries which collaborated with competition for R&D, because they realized that if they were to do the R&D all by themselves, every R&D, they will look at what kind of molecule I'll pick up and then I will develop further. But then the core of collaboration on some of the molecules to be developed is done collectively by pharma industry. And they have made a huge difference. Definitely Delphi. Delphi produces components for multiple organizations, and see how it can actually happen. So entrepreneurship is very crucial in the way you bring into the service industry which we are in. What I'm going to share is something which we are all familiar with, and this is one of the first learnings I had in American Express, which is flat organization. But that's not going to be sufficient. First, we must make sure we are flat. It's very, very important from an Indian shared services. One has to be very flat. Global organizations, by and large, are, but still, there are very many chances, and we have seen that happen in some of the smaller centers where there are challenges. Flat organization is very important. But can we look at exponential organization? What would you, again, one of the things I would like to throw to the audience, tell me what could be exponential organization? Anything which you can share your thoughts? What is exponential? Anyone to take a... Yes, please. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sandeep from AkzoNobel. I think you have invited some provocation. And when you say exponential, the way I look at it is about one to many, when you can reach out to a large number of colleagues in your organization. To keep
Absolutely, absolutely. It's actually, some people now, exponential is a good term which has been used in the technology world quite often now, where that's why it's been replicated today to the organization world, where there are teams which are working besides this is actually, I was saying, this is beyond, this is not from to, this is in addition to. Beyond means in addition to, right? Where there are teams which are working on 10x kind of a productivity, opportunity, etc. It's not 10%, 20%. It is not that 0.1x or 0.2x. This is 10x kind of a shift which can happen. So there is a huge shift which is happening in the organizations today, where you move from not just from a flat organization, but to an exponential organization. One, great example, I would say, that's where the power of information, power of process exists all the time, but power of information today combined with technology is phenomenal, which is why we actually have a model called TIBS, Technology Integrated Within Services at that time, which of course we are now shifting to a larger context of technology and enterprise services. So it is very important that each one of us as an organization can I look at an exponential organization within this, I had one person who was just doing one kind of analytics, and that person could generate $800,000 save in 1 year. And the person's cost was just $20,000. And can you imagine that is 40x? So it's, sorry?
Increases salary. Increases salary, I'm saying.
Yeah. Sure. So there is a huge opportunity for us if we think outside the box, and making sure that we deliver that kind of an opportunity. This is one thing which I feel all of us have talked any number of times, and it's been recently, as I used to say, once upon a time, strategy was, when I was growing up, strategy was a big word. What is strategy? Even now, I don't know how many people can actually clarify, but they will say, I'm strategic, But strategy is gone now. Now that word is gone. Today the word is value delivery. I deliver value to my company, my client, etc., which is very important. But there's one more word which is important, which is the chain. For instance, process value chain, relationship value chain. We have talked about a lot of those areas in the past. The world is moving beyond in the future-ready business services from beyond value chain to value networks. It's no longer going to be value chain alone. What's it? Again, I'm going to ask this question. I know I've just a couple of minutes to go. But what is the difference between a chain and a network? Network, of course, we use so often in infrastructure. But what do you think is the difference between chain and a network? Yes, please. Sorry, chain is? Sequential.
Value chain is quite sequential. You get value chain benefit one after another because it impacts the overall process. But value network is more about collaboration, and it is basically using others' knowledge to exponentially grow your area of transformation.
Very good. Anyone wants to add to this? Just one more fine difference, which is important.
Hi, my name is Kalpesh from Barcadia. I guess chain is a one-to-one relationship. Network is one-to-many.
Sorry?
Network is one-to-many.
Okay.
In fact, many-to-many. And chain is one-to-one.
Well, so in the interest of time, I would say one-to-many has its own connotation. The single largest thing, which of course, we touched upon, is chain is similar or same. When you talk of a chain, it will be similar in character. Networks will have big and small and too big and too small. That's network. It's collaboration truly. But it also has, you don't have to worry about how, today the biggest thing is, I'm a big organization. I can't partner with a small organization. That's gone. Of course, startups are very much there. But the point I'm saying is, even in the entrepreneurship mindset or entrepreneurship organization, which we talked about beyond leadership, it's about startup culture. Here it's about how do we bring that startups and multiple types of organizations together. Network that's what it is. Like even when you talk about infrastructure network, any kind of thing can be brought together, right? So it's no longer value chain, it's going to be value networks. And if we can understand that, we can leap to the next gen business services centers. And again, I want to emphasize this term called business services centers. I think this is one of the points we were talking about, that at the end of the day, how does this embryo of an organization in a large organization or small, how does it actually spread itself in terms of power to the multiple lines of business? It's no longer just the typical O2C or R2R or P2P, or we get hired to retire and so on. That's one part of it. But can we actually get beyond this to the value networks, working with multiple types of organization, ecosystem, beyond internal capabilities to external ecosystem is absolutely crucial. Some of us have done this, but I think it has to become a science behind what we really need to do. So, to summarize, I feel that there is a lot more to happen. And in the world of artificial intelligence, I just wanted to remind all of us, let's not forget the human intelligence. I think sometimes I find, while it is very important, I'm a very, very strong proponent of AI, ML tools. But even that can work only when human intelligence is combined. Okay, I think sometimes we kind of forget that we ourselves become a robo rather than the other bots coming into the system. But beyond human intelligence, can we look at human aspirations? I think beyond intelligence to aspirations is absolutely crucial if you want to create the next gen business services, and if you want to move beyond where we are today to leap 10x in the next 3 years, 4 years, and so on. With those few words, and I really wanted to thank you for this opportunity to kind of share my thoughts, and it'll be a pleasure to hear more as we go forward later in the evenings and tomorrow, and share your thoughts as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ravi, for that extremely inspirational and thought-provoking keynote. And I think everyone here has a lot to take away from that, and also presenting what is to be expected in the near future. Thank you.